In this video, we're going to talk about how you automate your sales follow-up and the best way to close more deals without hustling extra hard. It's all about setting up a process and workflows that get followed by your automation or your AI. So my name is Ua. I run an AI agency that helps businesses automate processes, saving revenue, reducing their costs, and not needing to employ new staff. Now, in today's session, this is a common problem that many businesses have, and they don't realize that the solution can be quite straightforward. How do you chase or follow up leads? How do you chase or follow up quotes? How do you chase or follow up estimates in the case of HVAC companies? And it's a case of following what you do now, but making sure that everything is defined so that the machines can take over and do the initial section or initial part of the chase up. So we'll look at a couple of examples and we'll talk through some ideas as to how you can implement this or have this assessment done so that you can implement the chase, the follow up, and the conversion. As you've often heard, the money is in the follow up. So let's get started. So, what typically happens is somebody phones your company, a HVAC company, for instance, and you go out to site, you look at the job that needs doing. It's not something you can solve immediately. Maybe you have to do a brand new installation of an air conditioning equipment or the heating equipment. So, rightfully, you generate a quote or an estimate, you provide that to the client, and then you leave, right? After you're gone, you do the initial follow up, and perhaps at that point, they're not ready. What do you do then? Or if it's a business, how do you know why they've not responded to your initial follow up or not even responded to the estimate? You don't know. So often, many company owners, many businesses move on at that stage. But actually, if you want to do more deals, close more deals, and make more money, the ideal thing would be to have a sequence through which you reach out to that client and you keep going until there's a clear conclusion, not some ambiguity as to whether they want to go ahead or not. So what typically happens is you send a quote, you wait, you get busy, you forget about that quote, you move on to the next thing until there's nothing for you to do, and then you remember, oh, I've got all these quotes that I need to chase. Um, Whereas the better thing would be to have a sequence, a consistency through which you keep chasing so that you have a pipeline and you constantly have jobs. And this is where some automation comes in, and the right assessment would help you work out the best thing to put in place. So, one of the challenges with doing manual follow ups is it's dependent on you remembering. So, it's your memory. But if you're busy, your brain doesn't have time to look at quotes or remember quotes they must send unless you have a clear way of chasing these things up. And what you want to avoid is the consistency disappearing because, all right, maybe for 2 weeks you're not busy, so you can stay on top of the chasing. But when you get busy, you will forget to do that chase up, and all it takes is you to forget one day, and then the numbers start to pile up, and then you suddenly have a situation where perhaps you move it to Fridays. Okay, Friday is my chase up day. What happens when you're on holiday? Who does the chasing up then? And there are other things. Life happens, and that can affect how you stay consistent and the pipeline of quotes turning into jobs or quotes turning into the actual engagement. So which quotes are still open? You don't know that. Hopefully, you have some sort of CRM that keeps track of that, but you need to keep that recorded. When are you to contact the person, and how often do you contact them? Is it every 2 days, every 3 days? Is it three, then five, then seven? Who keeps track of that? And what's been chased? What hasn't been chased? Which quote has expired? And at what point do you stop chasing? So keeping things in memory can work for five quotes, but what if you've got 50? If you suddenly ramped up and you had to chase so many people, what do you do then? Do you employ somebody full time to do that? Or can you have some assistant that would do that on your behalf? So the ideal thing is to automate the process. Let's not do the relationship just yet. Do the process, get a sequence through which you'll be using to do your follow-up. So have the schedules in place, have the calendar invites in place, have the messaging in place, have something that checks the status and authors the message that you send out. Now, every message that you send through this system needs to have a different purpose. So quite often you'd find, oh, just following up, or some people, when they chase up on LinkedIn, will just send a question mark and then just to draw your attention. But really, if you're doing this in a professional and a business way, you want every single message to have some sort of context to it that's different from the previous one. So each time it's new, each time it breaks the pattern that the client has in their head when they receive a message. So what you might do is, okay, day 0, you confirm delivery of the quote. So they've received the quote. The next time you ask them, do you have any questions about the quote? Not just following up, just bumping this up your email. Day 5, you may say, are there any blockers? Are you trying to get approval? What's holding you back? Do you need more information? Do you have any queries? And then by day 10, you might decide that that's the final message you'd send. And at that point, you may say, okay, these people are no longer interested. That may not be the case, but what you do then is you move them onto another group which you nurture. So you keep sending them information, things that will be useful and helpful for them in their business and in their property, depending on what you're working with. So the follow-up does not have to feel robotic. Um, Thank you. You found it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
In the toy box.
Oh, was it? Okay. So I'm recording my video. All right. So the follow-up does not have to be or feel robotic. You get your confirmation. So what you can say is, please let me know if it has not arrived. So that's the quote. And if you'd like me to talk you through anything, then the next one could be a question prompt. Do you have any questions about the scope, timing, or next steps? Any blockers? Closing the loop. So I spoke about the closing the loop. So should I leave this open for a lot later or close it for now? So try and get some engagement from the client so that they know that you're interested in getting some conclusion and getting to the end. And your automation needs to have some stop conditions. So at what point does the AI, the automation, know when to stop? What is the trigger for it to then move that client into maybe nurture or just email messaging or email campaign or something else? Typically, what people do is the moment the client responds, the automation stops. And there's a couple of reasons for that. You need to know what that response is and need to understand what that response is. So sometimes they might respond saying, okay, the project is cancelled. Yes, the AI can understand the project cancelled, but what if there's a nuance to the project being cancelled? Maybe it's saying the let's say there's a thermostat part of your project. You say, okay, the thermostat aspect of the project is cancelled, but we want to do other things. So that is a different message from the entire project is cancelled. So typically you want a human involved at this point to review the reply and then deal with and then pass it on to a human, so the human carries on from there. The AI can certainly understand what's been sent, but before you send out things, sometimes most times it's good for a human to be involved in the loop. Because even the automated messages we send, you want to essentially templates that have been sent. They're not just generated by AI and they're sent off without any sort of guardrails. So other conditions under which the automation will start would be, okay, quote has expired. So before anything goes out, you need to check the quote to see if it's still valid. The quote has been accepted or declined. A salesperson has taken over, so human is now involved, and the email you sent bounces. There's no point to carry on sending emails when it's not going to land, and that can affect your email system as well, or the reputation of your email. So without stop conditions, automations create embarrassment, and with them it creates some. But with the conditions in place, you have consistency, and you kind of understand. Well, you will understand what stage the automation is at. So the other thing is different quotes typically should have different treatment. So if you have a client that's likely to spend £500, compare that with a client that's likely to spend £50,000. If you lost a £500 job, yeah, it's not great, but what's even worse is losing a £50,000 job. So what typically happens is customers will have automation in place, but for the high value ones, they have more human intervention. And in some businesses, they just will not have any AI involved when there's a high ticket client. And I'm speaking specifically about an estate agency that would not have voice agents, AI voice agents, call their clients because they're high ticket clients. So it's a judgment call there. There's still room for automation, even if they're high value clients. What you do is you are more thorough in terms of having a human in the loop and having a human vet and approve the messages that go out. Also, it depends on how many quotes you do send out. If you don't have too many quotes, then it's not a big deal for a human to handle it. But something needs to be there to make sure that the job does get done, the task does get done. If you're going to tie a human down to approving many of these things, then the automation needs to be in place to prompt the human to get involved and to get things going so things don't get missed. So what this looks like in practice is a business sends out the, let's say, £4,800 quote. Day zero, customer receives confirmation. Day two, if the quote is still open, the system sends a question. Did you receive the quote? Are you happy with the quote? Are there any concerns? Then day five, the customer replies, my business partner needs to approve it. And then as soon as that comes in, the sequence should stop. And you update the status in CRM, and then a task gets created for a salesperson to chase up again afterwards. So business partner needs to approve. That means that you need to have something in your calendar to go back to the customer to find out if they're still carrying on. Now, that other thing you put in your calendar could be another sequence that would trigger a reminder or start a new email sequence to go out to that same client to say, has your partner approved? Are you still waiting on the partner to approve? And that sort of thing. And all of this should be captured in your CRM or your central system. And for each message that goes out from your business, if you're using AI to do the authoring and the generation of the emails, then AI is really good at adding context. And one of the big benefits of having AI and having this automation in place is the AI can look at all communication that you've had with this client. So let's say the client has made phone calls and you have that in your note taking or in your solution, and the client has sent WhatsApp messages through WhatsApp or in social media messages, and they sent emails. So all those things can be pulled together to create the context for the next email you send. And one thing that has been highlighted here is that there are differences between automation and AI. So the automation is all about the assistance, the timing, the checking of your statuses, reminders, CRM updates. So those are defined rules that must be followed. AI is really about generating the content, and it's more about the creative side where there are no hard and fast rules. You can provide guardrails, but the AI is still free to operate within a space. So if you ask it to generate an email, it's unlikely to generate the same email more than once. So that's where the creativity comes in. So that's AI, really. The reasoning, the thinking, the judgment, that sort of thing. So this is about automating the sales, and we're talking about adding in AI to help make sure that each email is different and add some context. So think about the negotiation, any discounts, any difficult objections, right? Those things should remain in human decision, but you can have AI help you come up with responses. So part of your solution should have some AI that you can just click to say, okay, this is what I received. What are the ideas you can share that I would use to improve the relationship and to rescue the transaction. So what you measure shouldn't be how many emails are sent, because that in and of itself, you could send spam and have 5,000 emails go out. The key thing is to measure things like how many percentage of quotes receive the full follow-up sequence. So how many of them go through to the end of the sequence that has been built? What's the response rate? So how many people respond and what do they respond saying? The time, so how average days from when the quote is sent to you receiving an outcome, and then the opportunities recovered. So those are key because that's what helps you determine what the return on that investment is. And the first improvement may just simply be that every quote finally receives the correct attention. So every quote receives the follow up if it hasn't been closed or hasn't been approved yet. So that's a step in the right direction, and then you can add more complexity and add more intelligence to the whole sequence. So your quotes may not need more persuasion, they may just need a reliable way of doing things. I'll certainly suggest that you start with having some reliability in the messages you send out. So build something in. Obviously, do your initial assessment to see what quotes come in and how many actually get chased up and how many times those get chased up. There's a saying somewhere that you need 12 touch points or something to convert a quote into an actual business transaction. So think about that when you're doing when you're assessing your process of bringing on clients and doing all of the follow up. So every quote should have a follow up. Every response should be captured, and the automation stops at the right time, and a person should take over when it matters. So have a look at your last 20 quotes. Just write down what you did and where it ended up. If your last 20 quotes turned to business, how did that happen? Was a human involved at every single stage, or was it because somebody was doing the follow ups? In which case, you have yourself a sequence. And then think about, okay, what's stopping me from scaling this up 10 times? If I scale this up 10 times, would I still be able to handle the amount of business coming in? And here I could just show you maybe one or two um, automations. So this one's for a rent reminder. So we're talking about quotes here. This one's a rental reminder. So it's still the same thing. We've got things here that help us determine what happens depending on the information that comes from the CRM, which is this table here. So it comes in and there's an assessment here, fairly standard assessment. Are we going to send an SMS? We're going to send an email. Is this email? Yeah, you can send an email if it's less than 7 days. So the messaging is different if it's less than 7 days. And then are we going to send a WhatsApp? And if we're sending a WhatsApp, the messaging is different. So the whole purpose for showing this is that just trying to highlight the different decisions that need to be made when you're automating things that go out to your clients. So you need to think thoroughly about what you're creating and what needs doing. So um, so that brings me to my introduction. I'm Uwa. I am the founder of Autori.ai. We help businesses recover quotes. We help businesses turn their quotes into book jobs. So this is specifically for HVAC companies. So if you do want to reach out, just send an email to hello@autori.ai or go on our website and book a call. I'll be very happy to discuss the situation with you and do an assessment of your operations. So that's it for now. Thank you so much for your time. Until next time, keep winning.